Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm waiting for Kadie Henderson to join me here. We're going to talk about the new moon, get into the astrology, hello, and then go through a little bit of horoscopes. Kadie has to request to be in the live. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Hello, Kadie.
Hi, dear. How are
Welcome. Welcome to the other screen.
you? Welcome.
How's it going? Happy new moon.
Happy new moon. What's up, everybody? How you feeling? How you doing? Yeah, we're good. We're here. We're here.
How has your new moon been so far?
Uh, I'm very grateful I happened today. Like I thinking to myself, like, you can do this. You can do this. Stay awake. I didn't do it. I'm so tired. But
Yeah.
I stretched really well and that was really good. I also had some green vegetables. Yes, I hear you, whoever that is. Haley, look, lay down. When in doubt, just lay it down because I'm tired. But yeah, so I was happy I got to stretch and I was happy I got some green vegetables and did a Target run and all that. How about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel similar. I've been feeling super tired over the weekend. Today I felt pretty tired. And it feels accessible to focus on practical things like cleaning my house or doing an errand or something like that. But the other more complicated asks right now, I just don't want to.
I hear you. I feel you. I feel you. I was talking to myself out loud and I was like listening back to myself and I was like, yeah, and that's it. There's no real answer there. And I was just like, thanks for listening to myself. And no, it didn't go nowhere else.
Yep. Yep. Um, I was thinking about the new moon because it's so close to Saturn, and Saturn, of course, is the ruler of this new moon. It's a new moon in Aquarius.
Oh,
And then Saturn's also the ruler of Capricorn, where all of the retrograde and Pluto pileup is happening. And
yes.
Mars just entered into Capricorn as well. And this feeling of like wanting to move forward and also being pulled or like compelled into the past with that retrograde motion has been really palpable for me. And it's coming up in psychologically and mentally a lot where I'm like, I want to do that, but like all this baggage or all this shit I need to think about or tasks that need to be completed before I move forward. And then it also feels like it's happening logistically and structurally as well, where I'm like, I want to do that, but nothing is ready or everything feels blocked or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I was writing like a little synopsis of what the season kind of felt like last week and I was just like, listening to the store owner and I love when she cooks, she's always like, it needs more salt. I can't wait to try it a little bit more. Like the next couple of days, his flavors will marinate. And I was like, that's what this season. Oh, wait, can you? I got a little circle. Are you? We're back. We're back.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh my God, we want to try this. I want to do this recipe over. I want to have this opportunity to do something different. And I know what I want it to look like, but like for whatever reason, I can't try the new recipe right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you don't have all the ingredients quite right. Some of them aren't even in season, in stock.
And so, and I know for me, for certain things, that's like really frustrating because I know I am somebody like really press that like, babe, it's temporary. But this, yo, like, and I want to be very transparent. Renee, you already know this. I am a Capricorn gang. I don't even want this much energy in Capricorn right now. I have a stellium. Like this energy is not foreign in my body, and yet and still I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
It's
can we?
so thick.
It's
So,
so thick, and
mhm.
you want to need, and you want to taste something different. Like it's like right at the tip of your tongue, and it's like, and we are still stuck with this stock.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I was saying to my friend this morning that it feels like trying to swim through concrete as the concrete is setting.
Yeah, yeah. And also trying to find a certain amount of like pleasure in being constrained, right? Like I was I was writing about being choked. And I was like, right, like breathing feels better when it's been like when I've been restricted, it feels better to breathe.
Mm.
It feels like not to breathe.
Hmm.
Um but like that's very specific to like sex and pleasure, but I'm trying to find practices that are reminiscent of that like to be restrained feels good,
Yeah. Yeah.
to have pressure feels good.
Yeah. I mean, I think whenever Saturn is in the picture, there's kind of interesting tension between restriction and restraint and container and like a healthy boundary, and
Oh.
um, I'm thinking about, I feel like there have been several books that I've read in the last couple of years about the intelligence of forests and
Mm-hmm.
kind of living systems. And I'm thinking about something I read somewhere, I don't remember where, about how in old growth forests, as younger trees are starting to grow, they get held back for a long time by their elders, by the larger trees. And they get held back because, they don't have access necessarily to a lot of light, or they might not get as many nutrients. But in that holding back, what happens is their trunk gets really strong and it
Yeah.
gets fortified, right? And then at some point when one of the elders dies and space gets opened up in the canopy and now light is available and they can photosynthesize, and then that older tree starts to break down, all these nutrients get released into the root network, then they can grow with a lot of dynamism and strength. But if that happens too soon, then their growth sometimes isn't always internally supported.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that way so much with these retrogrades, like thinking back to their beginnings, right? Like Venus stationed retrograde in mid-December. Mercury station retrograde, um, when was that? Right at the beginning of the year. And when I was looking back at my journal and kind of like keeping track of these retrogrades, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been pushing against a container. I've been pushing against a boundary this whole time and wanting growth and moving towards growth, but also feeling blocked and feeling stuck and feeling doubt and feeling fatigue and lack of resources and things like that. And in that time, it's been super frustrating, but I've also processed a lot internally that I would say has been super important, because I've worked through a lot of things that if I hadn't worked through and I had just been given a green light a couple months ago, I don't know if that would have actually served me.
Yeah. I mean, but also, yes, like, first of all, baby, that was a whole word. Like, I've been thinking a lot about death. Um, and what you said, I'm thinking about like the fact that when I'm looking at the pandemic specifically, so many like legends have died. Like
I
our
know.
So yes, Betty White just recently passed. There's also a phenomenal singer named Betty Wright who also passed, and like Andre Harrell and Andre Leon Talley, like, and I'm listening back to you and I'm like, wow, like this space is opening up so that new trees, new beings, new
Mm,
ideas can really break through and get light and nourish the same ways that those people before us did. Like that's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm also about yeah, a big part of this season for me has been eulogizing. So getting really tender with loss.
Mm.
Acknowledging that like that is a part of growth.
Mm.
So and just listening back to you talk about the trees, right? Like that had like that death has to be worked through so that I can move forward. The
Yeah.
same about like if I hadn't have processed this thing, I wouldn't have moved forward. If I hadn't have had that loss or that death, I wouldn't be able to move forward. So again, like how do I be in that space with a certain type of how do I hold my own hand? Like how do I be tender with that so that I take that with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's making me think about how the retrogrades are working with Pluto.
Yeah.
And yeah, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, Mercury is going to station direct in a couple of days. And then all the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, are transitioning out of Capricorn and into Aquarius with each other. And they all have to conjunct Pluto as they
Yes.
move through. And that
Yes.
it's kind of like eulogizing and tenderness around grief. And um, I more and more when I feel into Pluto, it's the utter intensity that I'm noticing that is the cellular sensation, you know, the bodily visceral sensation of like profound unknown that I feel like Pluto represents, and in that such incredible grief and loss, but also such potentiality
Yeah.
and and power, but
Oh.
this kind of, you know, this is a kind of potentiality and power that is bigger than me. It could
Mm-hmm.
destroy me. I could drown in it.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
I do. I do. I do. I do. Yes, I do. It gives me right, like it's like Pluto can feel like such a valley, right? Like
Mhm.
I know, but it's like it's perspective, right? Because like everybody's always like, oh, you're in a valley right now with the idea that I should be at the top. Like there's always like, oh, or people that I know are like, there's a saying of like you're in the valley right now, but the peak. But I think there's space to be like, valleys are beautiful, right? Like you're in water.
Yeah.
Now to self-disclose, I like water. So that works for me. But yeah, like to be in the valley, I feel like you're so close to the bottom
Mm. Mm.
and close to root. So you're really, really close to like nourishment and ground. Like you can land a little bit. Like your feet are closer to the bottom. And if I'm always looking up as I down, I don't get to notice like the pleasure of being down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know that I feel like I haven't always been groomed to see it that way. But that when I think about Pluto, especially somebody like me where I have Pluto in my 12th house and I'm thinking about like when Libra is not too far, like I think there's something about like I need to be really sensational about the pleasure that comes with being in a valley.
Yeah.
What grows in valleys that can't grow at the peak.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I don't know. I mean, you are a Capricorn stellium, so I feel like you could definitely speak to this, but I feel like a lot of what I'm tuning in with Pluto and Capricorn personally, and then what I talk with people about is the way that this transit, as almost a 2-decade transformational process, is exhuming, like bringing up from the underworld the shadow side, the kind of suppressed side of Capricorn.
Yeah.
And where Capricorn is this energy that can that can really focus on the top of the mountain, right? Like that's its whole fucking jam. It's like, I'm gonna climb that thing. It's up there. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get it. It's success or whatever. And
Toxic to me.
it,
Toxic. Yes. Yes.
it makes me think about like Lauren Berland's conception of cruel optimism, like this idea that the ways that we are cruel to ourselves and the ways that we keep ourselves oppressed and imprisoned can also be the ways that we have these narratives around when is it going to be better, when is it going to get better, oh, when I have that thing, then I'm going to be happy, when I've climbed that mountain, then I'm going to have perspective. And it's like, maybe, but you'll also be more exposed and you won't be able to see what's down in the valley anymore. Like you won't have that depth. You'll be up there. You'll have a different perspective. But this orientation towards what isn't as the place where happiness is, and how I feel like in the symbolism of Capricorn as it relates to constructs of bureaucracy and capitalism and kind of an orientation towards like an industrialized notion of success, that whole trajectory and momentum around productivity and hard work and achievement has, especially in the last 2 years, just been decimated, for a lot of us. And it's like, what the fuck? What am I going for actually? Like why?
Yeah.
Like conceptually, I think probably a lot of people, maybe not all people, but a lot of people have fully moved on from the 5-day work week. It's like, this is not what anybody wants to be doing, but structurally we're still in late capitalism. It's like, I want to move forward, but the fucking thing is holding me back. Like, how do I get there?
Yeah. And as you were speaking, I was like, right, like legacy. And then as I said that, I was like, oh, right, like ancestry. Like that's why I said talk dirty to me, because I believe in a mountain. I believe in mountain and getting up there. And I remember a teacher saying this in one of my dance classes. She was like, it's not gonna get any better than this moment right here. And so it's gonna be different, but it is not like nothing that you do ever is gonna get better than this right here. And man, that was one of the most sobering things I never heard. But to your point around this Capricorn energy, what it's almost like stereotypically known for, with this retrograde season, I feel like there has been this space to go under and think about like, what legacy am I building? What path am I laying? And whose path am I always in conversation with? And what does that give me space to grow? And that I will say, that is a mountain. It's just not the mountain that Capricorns usually be associated with. But when I think about like what I give the opportunity to grow and what what paths I get to walk within, because also I think so much of retrograde also gets me to think about where I got to choose and maybe where I didn't get to choose. And so I'm in conversation with like, what am I actively choosing to grow and what am I actively choosing to let die? That then gets me to be really specific about then what mountains am I willing to traverse and why? And when? Because, if Jesus rested on one day, I'm sure I can rest for 3 days. You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to be doing all this. But I think that is the gift of the retrograde season, because you get to definitely like why or when or how. And so,
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for saying that reflection period and the opportunity to let things end feels like a really important attribute of retrogrades in general, that there are often times where we're circling back on things and redefining, renegotiating, doing that RE prefix work, and remaining, right? Like not moving forward. remembering, holding still for a minute.
Yeah, not moving forward. And that's that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I wrote, oh my God. So Renee knows this. So I was roller skating the other day, and I can skate backwards. But it took me a really long time to start skating backwards. Like I barely got, like I'm okay. I'm okay. And I noticed the ways that like I'm ready to kind of like do new tricks. And but right now I don't need to be doing tricks. I just need to warm up. Like I just need to just do circles around the little tennis court. And I was talking to myself and I was like hearing my parents in my head, and they would say things like, all right, if you don't be careful, you're going to bust your ass and we're going to end up at the hospital. And I'm so grateful to have that, you know, like when I'm thinking about remaining, I'm in this practice of skating pretty consistently. And I see now, like, I'm ready to move forward, and I can sing, like, literally voices that say, like, all right, as you move forward, you're going to fall. And when you fall, who's going to be there to pick you up?
Mm. Mm.
And I think it's super valid. It's super valid caution, but then it also made me think about, right, like, if I don't fall, I'm probably not going to learn to skate backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like falling is a part of it. Now, I do think there are ways to, like, I wear knee pads, and I don't always wear knee pads, and I've gotten some like skinned up knees to like tell the tale. So I think there are ways to think about how I can support myself in falling. But I do think I'm curious in this moment about, like, there's a gift in staying still because I can watch what things have prevented me from growing in the past.
Mm. Mm.
And sitting with them for better or for worse.
Mm. I love that. And when I'm thinking about today's new moon, and that the new moon in the last 36 hours, the sun squared Uranus. In the last couple of hours, the moon squared Uranus. They're both moving into a conjunction with Saturn. And over the course of this year, that Saturn Uranus square is going to continue to be such a defining aspect as it was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were just saying, like naming around having the willingness to fall and skin your knees up or hurt yourself or something like that, because you recognize that that is essential for your movement forward to developing the skill that you want to develop. That feels like a perfect metaphor for this transit, and especially for what's coming up right now with the new moon, where I think a lot of what got brought up last year with the application of the square and the first perfections of it were breaking points where it was very clear that, you know, we're year 2 into a pandemic, things are changing, people are having a lot of confrontations personally, interpersonally, and collectively, etc. But then as we get into this year, I think that the feeling of something settling in is happening for a lot of folks. And it's like, okay, the new normal is that you don't know. Like, that's like, we're not going back to that other place, and we don't quite know where we're going yet. And who knows how long it's going to take to get there to know. But the new normal is not knowing. And there's so much need and room for change. But a lot of those changes are still unpracticed for folks. And so this feeling of like, I want to do something new. I'm being pulled towards the past by habit, by repetition, by what's known, by fear, by structure. I still want to do something new. And in order to do that new thing, I'm going to have to fall. Like, I'm going to have to fail.
Yeah. 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 I'm super, I'm super, you know, and I'm, I'm a Sag rising. So, and people have been telling me more and more that it really comes out like I'm really optimistic.
For a Capricorn, you're so optimistic.
Yes, right? Thank you, Renee. Like, but I'm grateful that, like, I have these like very physical practices that like reflect, like, because I'm a big fan of this echo. like this practice really is echoing this movement into Aquarius energy, which I would just say more generally speaking is just like newness. Like there
Yep.
is a way to do the thing. And
Yep.
if it's different, it's gonna take some time and you are going to fall. And so then that pushes me to be like, okay, so then like what does support look like? Like what does experience really look like? And how can I like set up these little like cubes of so I'm thinking about cheese, even though I do not eat cheese, but like you remember the little cheese cubes?
Okay.
So I have these little cheese cubes around my house that give the space to fuck up, and there's no punishment, right? Like when
Mm-hmm.
it like when I broke my arm. So fun fact that I didn't tell you about, I think I told you about, I broke my arm in the first grade, and it was really bad because I was roller skating, and we had to stay at Texas Children's Hospital for an obscene amount of time, and my mom was not happy at all, because who wants to be at the hospital at 3 a.m.? And I think thinking about the past, my brain goes to that place of like, oh my God, if I fuck up, we're gonna end up at the hospital, or oh my
Mom's
God,
gonna be mad.
someone's gonna be mad. And so that's why I'm thinking about, so like how can I put these little blocks of cheese around the house, or these little practices where I'm like, if I fuck up, if I don't make it up the pole, if I skin my knee,
Yeah.
I can say like, okay, I did that and it hurt, but I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I blossom into these like larger stakes situations where ultimately it's gonna be okay. Like,
Yeah. 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 I feel like what you're naming is the internal work of self-care, that they're like, we can have practices around self-care that are like, I'm going to take a bath or something like that. But this internal work of nurturing the self and comforting the self and attending to the inner children, or the kind of traumatized unsequenced memories, or the patterns around disappointment that are there. And it's like, no, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
especially okay, because let's really talk about it. Like, if anybody's sitting at home and they're like, fuck Pluto, I feel you. Pluto been in the same time for like was it 18 years? And so it's a yes, it is a gift to look at like such a long span of time and watch how you've grown. But it can also feel like you're pressing the same fucking button. Like, oh my God. And you be like, and I know I'll be over here being like, did I get the lesson?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have I grown? And then all of the personal planets are bringing such an attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
I get if people are like, man, fuck this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Astrology gave me like, this is not setting me up for success at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is an emphasis, I feel like, on change and witnessing it, and which requires a certain amount of like going back and like assessing the issue and then looking at it long enough to try to do something different. And that takes a lot of bravery, and that takes a whole lot of support. And what I will say, I feel like the pandemic it out is just how unsupported folks can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with very like, but not necessarily by happenstance, but like there are systems in place that literally this person was literally living their best life or their worst life and was super left unsupported.
Right.
And that it's difficult to support when you can't really see where your punches are coming from.
Right. Right. I feel like maybe that's a good transition to talk about what you're doing on Friday, and then maybe we can look at the signs and give a little impromptu readings for the signs for the new
Yeah, yeah. So this Friday, yeah, I like this idea that we don't always know where our punch is coming from. And so I think about sweetness all the time. I think sweetness is like really captivating and also just really soothing. And so I've also been thinking a lot about funeral rituals. And so like in my house, and in my mom's house growing up, but when somebody died, it was like a big deal. Like you cannot go to a funeral looking crazy. And by crazy, I mean you got to get your hair combed. If you're somebody that gets your nails done, you always got your nails done before a funeral, feet and hands. You always got a new outfit, right? Like you was gonna look good if you was mourning. And so as we lay a lot of things to rest, which I think we are with this particular planetary situation, I thought, okay, let's get real cute. Get real cute. So this Friday I'm hosting what I'm calling like a hair care journey, like a hair care story party. If we were all together in one space, we would all just be braiding each other's hairs and painting each other's nails and reminiscing on times where we felt really cared for. This is what it's gonna look like. If you do not have hair, there are multiple options. You could put lotion on, you could do your nails, you could put mascara on, but just thinking about rituals of actual showing your body care. And reflecting on moments of sweetness. I'm thinking about, yeah, at funerals, you always say good things about the people that died. And I am thinking about how in laying things to rest, it can feel really permanent. And I'm hoping that by reflecting on moments of sweetness, you realize that like that moment of sweetness was probably like surrounded by difficult shit, but there was sweetness in that moment. And just like there was sweetness in that moment, there's always sweetness coming. And I hope that that sweetness acts like a salve as we continue to lay things to rest, because like the planetary situation we got going on right now, it's pretty long. Like we talked about this before. Mars is gonna be in Capricorn, you said, till March. Venus and Mercury will be stationed direct by that moment, but we still have that Saturn Sun square or Saturn Sun conjunction. Like it's the winter. It's the winter.
Yeah.
So I just don't think extra sweetness is gonna be bad. I think extra sweetness is gonna be great. But yeah, you know, like to sit at the feet of a casket, it's hard. It's hard because you see the beauty of what is lost. And I think personally, like if you're sitting at the feet of a casket and you're feeling anything, I think it means you know love. And to know love and to lose love, it is hard as fuck. But if we never sit at the feet of the casket, I feel like we don't ever really get a chance to hold the magnitude of all the love that we held. And so I think it's really hard to then move forward if you're not really holding that in magnitude. So I bring that up because I think that so informs what this circle is going to look like. I want you to be in your feels. I want you to like be parting the hair and giving me some like twisties. And I'm probably going to like put beads or something in my hair or take my beads out or something. But just really be in the practice of showing your self-care as you remember the love. Yeah.
So if folks haven't seen on either my or Kadie's page, Kadie's going to do an event on Friday. It's at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's on Zoom. It's by donation. Anybody can sign up. And Kadie will be facilitating a care practice that they just described. And I love this event for the 4th, Friday the 4th, because it's the day that Sun and Saturn make their annual conjunction. And at the beginning of our conversation tonight, we were talking about Saturn and its rulership of the new moon, and Saturn as the ruler of Aquarius and Capricorn, where so much planetary action is happening right now. And today, we're in the middle of 2 planetary stations. So Venus stations direct a couple of days ago. Mercury is about to station direct on Thursday. and the sun is approaching its conjunction with Saturn. So there's an incredible amount of slowing down energy. And the sun Saturn cycle lends, it's kind of, before we were talking about trees, it's kind of like the sun Saturn cycle is when you get another ring on your tree. You know, it's like this is that annual conjunction that goes, okay, you made it through another year. And it can bring a kind of severity, and particularly in Aquarius, it can lend to a sense of isolation. And I think this year is really hard for a lot of people when it comes to feeling isolated and feeling a lack of resource or a lack of support.
Yeah.
And so I really love your event that's happening on the 4th, and the idea of, you know, in Aquarius, it's like we're all going to be on our computers, isolated, or not isolated, but separate but together, and kind of holding these stories and practices of care, and like holding our histories. And I love the poetry of it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. Well, if anybody wants to join, make sure that you check out either of our, Kadie or my pages, and links in the bio and everything. You can register.
Yes. And feel free if you have questions. We're gonna start with like a meditation that actually is revolved on trees and honey. And then I'll tell a couple of stories, and then folks will be invited to share their stories. So it'll be really, really sweet and chill and sweet.
Nice. And for anyone listening that doesn't have, like, when you were talking about your hair and stuff, I was thinking about, I've been growing my hair for the last couple of years, but there have been many years when I had a very austere, like not very, I didn't have a lot of rituals around care. So anybody who also can resonate with that, like, there will be, I'm sure you'll give a lot of prompts for the many ways that we can care for ourselves, even if it's not about beautifying or something like that.
Oh yeah, like you said earlier, I know a lot of people are trying to clean their houses. You can do this a workshop and wash your dishes, clean your kitchen, wash your bathtub, which I just feel like in my old age, I do not be down to wipe down the mirrors. But yeah, bringing sweetness to whatever space or place that feels good to you.
Cool. All right. So we have this chart up. Kadie and I are also sharing a Zoom screen. And we have this chart up to look at some new moon horoscopes. I felt I was really following the call that I feel in Aquarius season, and I did not record the Aquarius season horoscope, so this is a little offering. And currently it's 5:45 p.m. Where I am on unceded Chinook territory, Portland, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, and the sun is going down, and so that means that the light right now is actually the light of Leo, of Aquarius's opposite sign. So the chart that we're looking at currently has a Leo rising. Mm-hmm. And so maybe I'll just jump in on this one, since I am a Leo rising, and I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what I was experiencing and referencing a minute ago. So everything that Kadie and I have been discussing so far, this feeling of wanting to move forward but being held back, this is going to come in with all of the horoscopes, and for every sign it's happening in different parts of the chart. And for Leo, it's happening in a really interesting place in the chart, where basically the transition of sunset is happening. And so it's a transition between the upper and the lower hemispheres of the chart. And over the course of the last 18 years, Pluto has been transiting Capricorn, and in Leo's chart, it's the solar 6th house. And all these retrogrades are bringing emphasis to the 6th house. But the forward trajectory, the future trajectory, is into the 7th house. And so for Leo and Leo rising in particular right now, there is a huge amount of emphasis on the practical tasks of staying alive. And this means like attending to the body, attending to the needs of life, whether they are jobs and chores or other kinds of responsibilities, or your health, or kind of the mundane aspects of life that absolutely need to be functional in order for us to be relational. And then the desire, I think, for Leo to be relational right now is really shifting with Saturn moving through the 7th house. And Leo is restructuring around its relationships. It's doing a lot of growth work, a lot of maturing. Maturation comes through challenge again, and that resistance kind of feeling can help transform a thing. But a big message that I'm getting as a Leo rising, and that I just want to kind of extend out there to other Leo risings, but also fire risings in general, fire signs in general, is that the balance between accountability and integrity and overwork is really important to look at right now. And that fire rising people have a lot of ideas about what their lives are going to look like and all the things that they want to do and all the things that they're capable of. They can work really hard. And one of the main concerns for fire sign people is burnout. And so there's a huge amount of message right now in the Leo chart around burnout and the need to be discriminating around what you're going to put your energy into, and if you need a break, to take a break, but at the same time to keep showing up. And so it is this balance between be accountable and have integrity towards what you're doing. Certain things absolutely need you to pay attention to them. This is about life functionality. A lot of Leo risings are going through health matters right now. It's like you need to deal with them. Pay attention. If like something needs to get dealt with, you need to deal with it. And energy is really limited. And so don't overdo it. Like don't do extra right now. Like you're being asked to do so much or have been asked to do so much, don't do extra. And notice the relationship between the doing and relating, because I think that necessity to be accountable and to have integrity and also to not overwork has a lot to do with how Leo rising and Leo sun are able to be in relationship right now. Are you preoccupied with your own busyness? You know, can you not even be in relationship because you have so much on your plate, because you're constantly putting so much on your plate? Can you show up for relationships with accountability, continue to do the work you said you're going to do, etc.? So those are some of the messages coming in for me as a Leo representative. Anything you want to add, Kadie, from your fire sign perspective for Leo?
Yeah, that like and I've been thinking about this with everybody, but listening back to him, like sometimes you have to do a little bit less. Like especially when you're talking about accountability and integrity and health, right? Like when something is presented as a non-negotiable, then other things have to kind of rest. So just that it's hard to do less. Oh, it's so hard to do less, but it's a season, right? And in some seasons it's okay to do. And so like you said, being in conversation with that in a way that allows you to do less, and that's okay. Like that's the
Yeah. All right, so Leo risings out there, do less. All right. Kadie, you want to get it going with Virgo sun, Virgo rising?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I've never done this way, so I'm actually gonna like switch my camera around. Okay, so just to clarify, this is coming up for Virgo and Virgo rising people in their 5th house. And but it's okay. So this is coming up in your 5th house, right? So like I love 5th house. I think of 5th house, and I'm so glad I'm talking to you, Renee, because I always think of your eyes, you and other Leo rising cousins, nibblings. Right, like there's this space of newness and reflection around like curiosity and wonder. And I'm thinking about like being like we're pushing more towards that mundane and how to exist in the day-to-day. So what structures do you need when you're thinking about curiosity in order to maintain them? What containers are needed in order to maintain them so that you can care for yourself in the ways that you need? And then also just thinking about Virgo energy, I'm like, in what ways are we preventing ourselves from having like the biggest eyes? Like in what ways can we like really think about when we were 4 and we first had chocolate milk? Like I was just telling a friend of mine, the first time I had Coca-Cola, it was at a field day. I felt amazing, man. And so just thinking about Aquarian energy and Virgo energy, like when does that like, wow, that felt amazing, get stuck or get blocked? And how can thinking about fifth house, how can creativity or children or thoughts around parenting create a little bit more space so that you're contained, but you can wander a little bit. Wander, but also like wonder, like, wow, what could this be? Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I love everything you said. I think just following up with that, thinking about the fifth house as a place of desire and also personal desire, that it's a place where desiring is in self-actualizing and feeling the erotic potentiality of one's life, which is that big eye thing that Kadie was talking about. You know, it's like, I'm alive, you know, like, whoo! And the work I think that it takes for Virgo to allow for something to get big, like to grow, to gestate, to be full of possibility before it becomes a job. Like that's coming in with me a little bit with this house. Like I feel like Virgo is so good at strategy and implementation and, you know, has a brilliance around making a job out of things. But also there's a need for Virgo right now just to be with the feeling of something, to be with the expression of something as it's coming out organically and innately, and to not get in the way of that organic expression mentally, while you also track it so that you can build a container around it.
Yeah. Which I feel like is super similar for like earth signs in general. That's definitely what you just described as I'm calling in as a Capricorn too.
Yeah. Shall we move on to Libra?
Yes! This is so cool. I'm so excited.
All right, Libra rising, we've got Capricorn in the 4th house and Aquarius in the 5th house. So that trajectory of old into new. What are your thoughts, Kadie? You think a lot about the 4th house.
I do think a lot about the 4th house. I'm like, where are your roots? What's rooting you? And when I'm especially considering we're moving towards Aquarian energy, right? Like my thought is like, it's okay for the roots that you have right now to be a little seasonal. I know that it can feel like there could be like a thought around like this root is good or this root is bad because it's good because it's going to last very long, or it's bad because it's temporary. But given that we're making our way to this like expansive place, which is 5th house, it's okay for it to be a little temporary because it's a root, and not all roots last 100 years. And clarifying the sweetness of a root that's not like that's a little bit more intense, like not a little bit more temporary. What is rooting you? What's rooting for you? What's tethering you? And what's and then too, like the roots are ready to die, like especially as we're moving toward that Aquarius season, like some roots, some stories, while they are sweet and beautiful, they're no longer applicable. to the
Yeah.
tree that you're growing now.
Right.
And so how are you making peace with, especially with Pluto moving there? Like, how are you making peace with this, like, some roots that are decomposing
Yeah.
and they're not as necessary as they were before?
Right. Yeah, I think the Libra solar chart has so much death energy right now, and I mean that on all levels, but deeply on a level of metaphor, that the Libra orientation towards maintenance, I think, is really getting tested. Like this orientation towards maintaining, you know, relationship, maintaining what's pleasant, maintaining beauty, maintaining hope. I think Libra is getting kind of it's getting its face turned towards the wall and then getting pushed into the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like there's a lot of growth that's happening in like the feeling of restriction that we were talking about feels really strong with the Libra charts.
Mm-hmm.
And the need to get into the personal shadow and to do this depth work and root work that you were talking about feels so powerful, because there's a desire for growth that's happening for Libra, but what wants to be born and kind of like the new thing that wants to emerge cannot emerge with the root structure as it is now, right? Like there's so many dead roots that need to get cleared away, that, you know, it's like we need to take that pot out of the little, or that plant out of the little pot and repot it, and that process can be traumatic and freaky, and it's super necessary.
Yeah, when you were saying that, if there are any Libras watching, I was immediately like, oh, put your hand at the base of your belly and breathe. Because and I want to like really say that like to lose roots is difficult and it hurts and it's scary and it's painful. I know sometimes that we talk about, or I know that sometimes I'll be around people and they'll speak to change and immediately think about what's coming next.
Right.
I just want to be super transparent that like, I'm thinking about like holding my lower belly. I'm also thinking about humming.
Yeah.
That like, it's okay to self-soothe.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Whatever self-soothing looks like for you, like I ain't pressed if it, I wasn't there holding up the light, so I don't really care what you do, but as long as it's to you,
right?
But honoring that, like, it's hard, and if you need someone to hold your hand, or if you need to go to sleep holding your own hand, that's like so real and so valid, and I would argue very necessary. That's the literal base of your chart. That can feel like I often refer back to, I don't know if you remember in British Lit when they when like the periods of literature when they discovered when Charles Darwin came on and said that like evolution was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love reading the poetry of that time because these poets were distraught. Like Jesus is not real.
Right.
What? Like these poems, and they're like, my existence is in question because these birds have evolved from themselves.
Right.
I have a real deep empathy with that. I know it. Yeah, just think about like, I know what it feels like to lose.
Yeah.
You are always losing.
Yeah. And I love what you just brought in, because I think for Libra, there's also something happening with origin stories right now, and like where you come from, and this idea that where you come from changes. You know, it's like the story that you have around it changes, the perspective you have around it changes, and the people, the places, like they change, the attachments are going to change.
Yeah. So whatever knee pads, hand holding, song, you need to navigate change.
Yeah.
And then that's also something like that you may have never navigated this change. And so you're learning what resources you need at this time.
Right.
So just being sensitive to like new resources of support coming in as you navigate this new place. Yeah.
All right, Scorpio solar charts, Scorpio sun, Scorpio rising. The emphasis now is between your third house and your fourth house. I keep feeling this intense shift for Scorpio with Uranus in your opposite sign right now.
Yep.
And
Eclipse coming up.
What's that?
Eclipse season coming up.
Eclipses are coming up. And with what's been happening with Capricorn, with the modern ruler of Scorpio moving through Capricorn for so long, now with the traditional ruler of Scorpio and Capricorn too, with Mars and Pluto both there, something that's been coming up for me a lot with Scorpio has to do with perception and orientation and how premotor focus works. And so like premotor focus is it's a term to think about with the nervous system. So basically like our nervous systems are built upon repetition, and we become accustomed to certain kinds of habits or behaviors. And premotor focus is the orientation of the nervous system towards something before it's happened. And so, for example, if I go to the park every day and I always see the same person and their dog, and I really like this dog, you know, I'm going to have an orientation to be looking for that person and the dog when I'm there. And that's a premotor focus. It's like before I even go, I have an outlook for something. I'm paying attention to something. And with what's going on for Scorpio, I feel like there's this long process that's asking Scorpio to really look at how does your perception work, especially when it comes to how you relate and how you hold space with others and how you allow others to hold space with and for you. And I think Scorpio has an incredible amount of psychological capacity and adeptness, but what goes along with that oftentimes is judgment, critique, negativity, and honestly being wrong. Like Scorpio can be very perceptive, but sometimes perception gets in the way because it doesn't, you know, you don't check it out with a person, or it's like, oh, I'm perceiving this, and now you've got the whole story or something like that. There's a need for slowing down and going, how did I get to the place where this is what I'm perceiving anyway? And like working through these deep layers that really shape and form perception, which then shape and form relationships. Because I think Scorpio wants to be in relationships in really different ways. And in order to get into those different relational dynamics, it's going, I have to have different kinds of conversations. I have to think differently about things. I have to be more open to different things. And so awareness is going really deeply in.
Yeah. It reminds me of something you said in last Aries season about like self and other. I love Scorpio Taurus axis. Like I think there's just such a sweetness around like when I am with self and when I am with other, and how do I exist close enough to myself that I have space to exist close to others. And I'm thinking about third house, and I always envision a third house as like, you know, you're walking down the street, you're saying good morning, people are saying good morning back to you. But I have to believe that there's someone that's going to say good morning to me. And so just listening back to you, right, this like navigation of that, like I believe in relating to people. I believe that I am nourished in relating to people. I believe that I am special because in some ways because of how the proximity I have to other people. And I think leading with that then shifts, okay, then like when I am perceiving, it has to come into conversation with like, I want to relate to people.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, with Scorpio, we're working with such a deep water and deeply bound emotional patterns. And so it's also walking down the street and someone saying hello to you And do you hear their hello in the way that they're trying to express the hello, you know, or are you hearing the hello
Yes.
through the lens of what, you know, whatever you're holding from the past?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And thinking about like we are moving towards fourth house from like the planets for you as a Scorpio rising or Scorpio sun, like we are moving more towards your root system. And so just like walking into space knowing that you're supported, be that ancestrally or in this hello, I think could be super helpful. Just like I am somebody that likes to write things down on my hand, but just like you are always supported. You're always in community with someone other than yourself, and that's a gift.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot about conversations you and I have had, and I feel like I am listening and taking part in these conversations in many spheres right now that have to do with the ability to change the past in some ways by
Yeah.
shifting orientation in the present and
Mm,
doing something different in the future. And then
mm,
from that place, we can look at the past and see it as a place of growth rather than a place of pain, for example. And
yeah.
so it doesn't change the event, but it changes how we're relating to it. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, feeling that.
Right. Same thing I was saying with the valley. Like if I've only been and I feel like it's super similar to thinking about what you're talking about with the whole hello. Like if I've only been groomed to see the valley as a place that is just before the peak, I don't value the valley.
Right.
But sometimes I'm always in the like sometimes that's it. Like that's it. And so just the power of perception. And I think that's why those mantras or those like little reminders are super helpful because it's like a little vitamin every day that says, oh right, like while that perception, that past perception is real, I am actively engaging in this new story that is supportive to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That cube of cheese.
Little cube of cheese.
All right. Let's do Sagittarius. Kadie, take it away.
Yo, look. If you're a Sag rising or Sag sun person, we are of value. We are of such value. And these people be having us fucked up, but we are of such value. Oh, and it's okay to be dramatic. And I feel like if you're a Sag rising or Sag sun, you completely understand my temperament. Right, that like we are of value. And when my body is of value, when my body is of value, but when I'm also thinking about what I value, um, the way that I relate to other people shifts drastically.
Yeah.
I just want to say that one more time, like that I am of value. I think it's really difficult for sometimes for people to just say that, like, I am of value. I am a resource that needs to be maintained. And so then what I require is not a negotiable. So we were talking earlier about like fire signs, like to burn out is a disservice to me.
Yeah. Right.
If I am of value, I can't lose me.
Right.
As much as those other things look so satiating and wonderful and great, and it's going to be better if I go over there, right? Like, if I can't get there, then what's the point?
Right. Right.
And then if we're also thinking about the fact that like this energy is moving us to this third house, the stronger I can clarify what I value, even as I think about myself as a value, the more integral, also like the more intimate I can be with those people that tell me hello on the sidewalk.
Mm. Mm.
Because I know that these relationships more broadly are rooted in my inherent value. It's really difficult to be in relationship with people when you don't think you're of value.
Absolutely.
Because it's super clear about like what I'm willing to take and what I'm willing to give.
Absolutely.
And I know, especially with the pandemic, there's been a lot of information around who is of value and what is of value. And so it can be really, really difficult to affirm a value system that is not echoed back to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why those little sugar cubes are so important, because again, they're that little vitamin that just affirms consistently, like, hey, I am of value. My needs are valid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they can't reciprocate it in this moment, the effort that I put in to affirm them myself is just making space for that echo to return back to me. But if I never say it out, or like if I'm thinking about a cave, like if I never voice it to the cave can't never say it back to me.
Right.
And my silly self, well, not silly, my ass will be like, well, you can say it first and then I'll echo it back to you. It doesn't work like that. Trust me. I've tried it a couple of times. But yeah, the more I can lead with that, the more it can echo back to me. I've been navigating with this second house overload. And for those who don't know, my stellium is here. So this shit is wild. It's like wild, wild west over here. But yeah.
I feel like everything you said, yes. And then I feel like there's this thing happening with Sagittarius right now with and again, this comes in with all the fire signs, but especially with Sagittarius, where the vision can happen really quickly. And so a Sagittarian process can be like 1, 2, 3, 10, right? And like 4 through 9, we're not seeing them, right? Because it's like, oh my God, the beginning of something, this is exciting, and then the vision of what it's going to be is beautiful. And and then Sagittarius is like, I've seen the truth, I've seen the picture, I know where I'm going, I am off. And this second, third house trajectory that Sag is going through right now is like,
sit down.
Yeah, and take your time. And I think that what you're talking about around this restructuring and kind of reformulation of what is valuable, and that you are valuable. Your time is valuable. Your body is valuable. Your well-being is valuable. Your rest is valuable. Your happiness is valuable. That is then recontextualizing the big picture, like this vision of like, I've seen the truth and I'm going to go for it. It's like, oh, maybe that vision isn't the thing, or like, even if it is the thing, I'm going to get there by taking care of myself and making sure that I set up strategies and systems for me to be cared for, especially socially, like especially when it comes to having people who will echo you, having accountable relationships in place, etc.
Yes. My Sag rising ass was just telling Renee earlier, like, basically, I'll be fine. I'll go traverse the world all by myself. And this season has been really difficult. Like, I definitely identify as a fire rising in that, like, I'm very self-assured. I'm very self-sustained. Like, a friend of mine just said, like, Kadie, you be thinking the world ain't shit. And I was just like, yes, but I believe in me.
Right.
And it's a real conversation to say, like, it's not just you. And so how do you get comfortable with the vision changing based on the fact that, like, for me, for example, my values have shifted? Like, it becomes super important to slow down, because, like, the vision that I'll have will be so clear, but it be so rooted and connected to these values that are dying.
Right.
At Pluto.
Right.
And how to be slow enough to acknowledge, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that vision might be a little dated. Like, we gotta go down a little bit and remember that new systems are coming in and leaving space for those. Like,
yeah, it's like Bayo Kamalafe said in that, I feel like I quote this all the time, but the times are urgent, let us slow down. This feeling of like, I want change, I want something different. I'm not going to get to that different place by doing the things that I already know how to do. Slow down. Like, be with the trouble of something, be with the process of it.
Be with it, be with the stock of the thing. Yeah.
All right, well, you're Sag rising and a Capricorn stellium, so start us off with Capricorn too. Get us going. Cardinal.
Man, so this is pretty. You know, we've talked about this. I'm actually really excited for Capricorn, folks. I'm
Same.
like,
Same.
yo, we have been through it, and it feels like, I mean, dare I say, it feels like maybe the calls that we may have placed back in 2017 are starting to be echoed. Is that fair to say? Like if you recall, 2017 to 2020 was like a lot, especially if you have major, like if you have multiple Capricorn places, because there was a
That's the
lot.
Sag in Capricorn.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on like really feeling what it means to be limited.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that experienced great loss at that time, myself included. And so first off, I just want to say that, like, damn, it felt good to be echoed. And so much of these transits are really about this, like, I would say, like, this deeper self.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking about just kind of basking in self, but getting clear on the self that we've made it to.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what it requires. And we're moving towards this like values place. And so, like, I'm thinking about, like, what do I need to have on? What do I need to have? Like, what do I need to have on? What do I need, like my nail polish? Like, what do I need mentally, emotionally, spiritually to build these new systems?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I also feel really excited for Capricorn, like after almost 20 years of just getting the shit beat out of you with Pluto in this sign. And now, and it depends where your placements are, where Capricorn identified people's placements are. It could have been more towards the beginning or towards the end.
Right.
But this phase of completion that I think the Capricorn transformational process is in,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking earlier before we started the horoscopes about care practices and like the internal work of care as opposed to the more external or action oriented work of care, like the difference between taking a bubble bath, which is wonderful and you should do it and it's great for your body, but sitting in the bubble bath and giving yourself some diatribe of negativity, or beating up on yourself, or sitting in the bathtub and you're so tired it's like you can't really be there to receive the bath, to receive the warm water. And I feel like something, what has happened in the Capricorn body has been that there has been so much breakdown that now there's almost no choice but to receive.
Yeah.
And to let the reception be intuitive and to echo yourself, to listen to what you know about yourself, even if it doesn't match up with other people's value systems. So it's like, if you know that you need the nail polish in order to feel good about going out into the world, check in with the voice in your head that's going, do you really need the nail polish? And it's just like, know what you know. Know who you are, know what you know, and love yourself in that. And it's like, no, you're not here to get other people's acceptance. Like, you're not here to get other people to give you a pat on the back. They will, that'll be nice, but ultimately it's like not your life purpose. Like, your life purpose is about showing up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that work of self-loving that is so hard, like where I feel like Capricorn and its representation as a mountain, it's like it can build up so much austerity, so much protection, so much fortitude around its capacity to survive. And underneath that is just this soft, tender being. And it's like, that needs to get held now, baby. Like, that's what needs to get held now. Like, you are okay as you are.
Yeah. And I think my hope for myself and also other Capricorns is that, we've been through it. and we're still here. And like that in of itself is a testament that like that's a testament of worthiness. And I hope that that makes people feel more like capable and assured that this season is just as important. Because I'm also like, does it feel a little bit easier? Yes, that's okay.
Yes.
Like, or it
It's
feels a little
good.
bit lighter.
Right.
Yo, you got it.
Right. And don't make it stressful for yourself. Like that's another thing, you know, where it's like I feel like a lot of Capricorns at this point are so used to it being so hard that it's like a little bit of ease and they're all like, when's the next bad thing?
When the shit
How
gonna drop.
how can I work hard right now so it's going to be easier later? And it's like, you know what? Maybe you could just feel into like what does it feel like for it to be easy for a bit and let your nervous system acclimate instead of jumping into the next thing as a protective measure, because I think it could get easier consistently if you retrain your body to let that ease in. And ease doesn't mean easy, but it's like internal ease.
Yeah. This like, but right, like this ease that comes from knowing.
Yeah.
Right, like to go back and forth with you about nail polish anymore. Right, like I got it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
All right, Aquarius. Happy Aquarius season. Happy birthday, Aquarius. You are beautiful. So, okay, Aquarius, you're getting ready to go through what Capricorn has been going through for the last 2 decades. Pluto is moving up on your sign. And all these retrogrades are happening in the part of the chart called the 12th house, which is deep psychology, and it's a vague and yet persistent sensation that is everywhere and nowhere. And so I think a lot of Aquarius folks right now are really going through it. Like really, you are going through it, and so much is getting asked of you currently, and in some ways I think that if you have a feeling that something new is beginning, it's like, yes, over the next, I mean, depends how old you are, but over the next couple of decades, your life is going to get radically transformed. And what is happening right now in 2022, and especially in Aquarius season, is that problems are getting presented and psychological and energetic and emotional weaknesses are getting tested and tapped on. And where there's a cognizance, like a consciousness of something being weak, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, you really want to pay attention to that and not push it away, not ignore it. And I think that Aquarius can be so intelligent and have such a capacity to detach that this is a moment where you really want to watch that tendency, because you have to allow yourself to feel what is uncomfortable right now, because the discomfort is coming up to show you where there's something that needs to get fortified, where something needs support that it didn't have, where something needs to be remembered and held in a different way. Right. And if things feel incredibly psychologically intense, don't try and push it away. Like, do the best that you can right now to care for yourself in that intensity and to feel into what the intensity is asking you to shift and change, and especially around support. And I would say like internal support and spiritual support are top on the list right now to be investing in.
Just adding on to you, sometimes I'm looking at the chart and I'm like, whoa, that's a fucking loaded 12th house. If you find yourself like cooking or walking down the street or driving in the car and like memories come up, and you feel in your body like whatever visceral reaction certain memories can bring up, I'm always like, ask yourself what happened. um, or make the sound like ooh,
Mm.
ooh, ooh, to just really, it's like a very, it's a simple, but it's a thing that I try to do to try to echo whatever small visceral reaction. Like, oh, something happened. Oh, like the story of Banana and the Rascal Gal. Oh, my back. Oh, your back.
Yeah.
As a way to really like hold, like, yes, that did happen. I'm also thinking about like writing letters to folks that have passed on. Be they deaths that you were really close to or deaths that they really weren't close to. Um, I also think about like the image of like the little ball that's in the water. Is it a buoy?
Hmm.
All of those balls are connected to something at the base of whatever body of water. I know with that 12th house stuff, it can feel like you're really drowning.
Yeah.
But just that image of like, oh yes, yes, I am bobbing, but I rooted somewhere. Any kind of like altar,
Yeah. Yeah.
altar prep,
Yeah.
or altar care. Even just like sitting on roots sometimes if you have access to that. Um, because what I think about with that many things going through 12th house, the loss is not always going to be tangible,
Right.
and the memories or the sensations that come up, they're not going to always have a clear tether or like a clear root. But the more that you can root yourself, the more that you can echo whatever small baby siren you can hear, I think the more support whatever that part of you will feel. And from there, I think it'll come up a little bit more. And then you'll soothe a little bit more. And then it'll come up a little bit more. But it's being in and I would say that, yeah, like this is the practice I think of eulogizing. Like to
Right.
get comfortable with sitting with like, ouch, that really did hurt. Ouch, that really did suck. Um, because that's super necessary
Yeah.
for where you are.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you were talking about with eulogizing earlier with this chart, especially, and the need for Aquarius to really give space for grief right now.
Mm-hmm.
And in the shifts that are happening for Aquarius, there's so much uh there's actually kind of a newborn baby energy that's
Yeah.
happening in the Aquarius
Yeah.
chart right now. And so it's incredibly impressionable, it's incredibly tender, incredibly vulnerable, and there's a lot of space for new learning, but that
Mm-hmm.
new learning has to be held for a long time. Like it has to be held with care, and you can't you can't do that thing that you do, Aquarius, where you distance yourself from your feelings and pretend to be okay.
Yeah.
Even though you're gonna do it, you're gonna, because you're an Aquarius, like you're gonna do it. But at least internally, that what Kadie was saying, like allowing a bodily, fluid response to feeling that's
Yeah.
not about the mind.
Yeah, when you were talking, I was thinking about I love when we look at the zodiac as like a birthplace, and right, like 12th house is this like this womb space, like it's so dark and you know that there's a baby there. Um, but it's dark.
Yeah.
So it requires a certain type of light, or what I would consider faith. And so I was like listening to you and I was like, yeah, like sometimes when I cry, I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I know.
Hmm. Hmm.
The truth of the matter is, I don't know.
Right. But you have to have a pet name for yourself and be like, it's okay, baby. It's okay, honey.
Yeah, like the way that like we hold newborns, if you've never held a newborn, I would describe it to you. This like you're like they're crying and you're patting their back and you're saying, I know, I know. And I correlate that to this Aquarius chart in that like I know you don't know, but you're saying you do know because you are connected to, this is why I also brought up ancestry. You are connected to people that do know. And so there is a knowing, even if you're not super tethered to it just yet. But the more you tap and you say, I know, you're calling in this knowing that will come to you if you call for it.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to, like, what I have noticed with 12th house that I feel like isn't always talked about is like, you're not alone in 12th house.
Right.
Just a different company. And it's a company that I feel like capitalism and patriarchy and all the other archies don't need space for. But if you can open to this space of like being supported outside of what you can see, but like really feel, I think it's super palpable, but I think it's also super nourishing.
Yes. Yes. That luminous wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay, Pisces. I feel like Pisces and Capricorn right now actually have some of the most exciting charts. Like when I feel into the Pisces chart,
Jupiter
huh?
Jupiter over your ascendant. Pisces is out here looking set. Yo, if you a Pisces rising or a Pisces sun, baby, you probably looking fine as fuck. And I just want you to know, I see you. I see you. All of the kisses. Jupiter on your ascendant. That's I was so late because
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Jupiter so much in our conversation today, but Jupiter has been in Pisces since the beginning of the year. And so for Pisces rising and Pisces sun folks, you're getting your ruling planet in your sign. And this is like the queen coming home. Everybody wants to celebrate for that. On that note, though, I do want to say that especially for Pisces, because it is a water sign and because the water that is ruled by Pisces is the interstitial fluid, the first house is the body. I want to say that Jupiter in the first house as a transit, especially for the water sign risings, can also come with significant weight gain. And if anybody is going through that and you're freaking out about it, I just want to invite you to watch the transit, because you might notice that as soon as Jupiter gets into Aries, it leaves as quickly as it came. And there is a feeling of expansion in the water body that's really palpable with Jupiter in your sign right now. And with what's happening in the Pisces chart, there's also a push for Pisces, I feel like, to get out there and try different things and open up to a new way of being and kind of like go for your dream a little bit. And your body is literally getting expanded. Like your body is growing from the inside out. And so if this is happening in a physical manifestation, like enjoy that juiciness and that squish. And also just feel into, like, I think sometimes when there's a fast water weight gain, and again, I've seen this a lot with Jupiter in the first house, is that there might need to be an incubation period. And this can go a little bit counter to some of the Jupiter in the first house feelings, which are elation and kind of like, wow, a lot of possibility. You've got a lot of 11th house activity going on as well. But you also have movement into your 12th. And there is this feeling that I'm getting with Pisces of the chrysalis, you know, that period of time before the caterpillar becomes a butterfly is super important. They build their own containment in which they are allowed to turn to goo. And then they expand from the inside out. They reorganize, they reorient, and then they emerge. And I really have that feeling very strongly with the Pisces charts.
Yeah. I like this image container for expansion. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Also, just like adding on, if you want to take some fly nudes, because that's been in my practice as of late, to really like, because like, and this is not, obviously if you want to share those nudes, that's fine, but really like, you know, watching the beautiful tummy squish and the dimples in the ass, you know, a little fluff of the cheek. Immortalize your shit. Like, you are a Pisces. I assume you know what it means to really expand in these ways. And I'm also just thinking about like self-intimacy, indulge in the squish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Be in the squish. And in that squish place, it feels like Pisces wants to contain itself because there's also a lot that's happening for you around who you're social with and how you want to be social,
Yeah.
who you want to be friends with, how you want to be engaging with them, what group of people you want to take part with for whatever, or something like that. And I feel like it's really important for Pisces right now to give yourself a lot of permission to love yourself, to be fascinated by your own process, to fall in love, with yourself and what it is that you offer, to support you to do this work around reassessment in your social.
Yeah.
Because I think some of you need to let go of some friendships right now. Like, I think a lot of Pisces, and especially Pisces risings right now, there might be folks out there that are like either old friends coming back, old relationships coming back that need to get sorted out, or there are certain relationships that just they have done the job that they need to do and it's time to move on. And you have to love yourself.
Yeah. Thinking about Pluto going through the 11th, like, yeah, the way that you're orienting with people is going to shift.
Yeah.
And so yourself, basically, if I could, give you a love letter to hold on to, basically, you're just expanding and getting finer by the days.
That's right.
So the way that you oriented with people when you was like a different kind of fine is gonna be different now that you're a new kind of fine. Call it in. Basically, you're just getting finer, and so things have to adjust with this leveling up that you're doing.
Yeah.
If y'all can tell, I fuck with Pisces, like in an astrological sense, like sexiness on sexiness. I'm into it.
Jupiter ruled.
Yes, I believe in you.
All right, Aries.
Okay.
You want to start it off?
Yeah, we're looking at that's 10th house. I mean, Aries, baby. This is a certain type of glow. Or this is a conversation around the glow that maybe you naturally emit, and maybe the glow that you are hoping to emit, and like and deciphering the difference between those two things. The ways that you've been moving up until this point may have existed in a way, and I'm specifically talking about your career, or the things that you do to make money, or the things you do to get you noticed outside of people that like are not familiar or platonic or romantic. This is like the people that see you and admire you for something, or look to you for a task. It just feels like especially with Mars being there, like it can feel like this space of great possibility. But it is giving me a sense of it's that midline, it's that center. So in order to be seen in the ways that you want to be seen, there has to be a clarity of self and what you're hoping to give and what you're hoping to keep for yourself. And keep in mind, we're going toward this is Aquarian energy, so like how you exist with people, specifically these like larger networks of people, is getting ready to shift. And so similar to the second to third, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Ooh, what's my center here? What's again, like what's rooting, what's calling me home?
Mm.
And home being myself as a way, so that those new systems, those relationships, those ways of being seen are rooted in the integrity that I am hoping for rather than the integrity that is expected of me. Like, given that I hold this special position.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I feel like Aries right now is in a place of examination around what the dream has been and what the idea, the ambition, the goal, whatever you've been working on for a long time, the person you've been trying to be, like Kadie was saying, like this idea of your public self, the person that you are in the world, and that person is not the same person anymore. And what you were trying to do 10 years ago does not match what you're trying to do right now. And right now, like you're full of ideas and you're full of guidance, but you're also not yet clear about what it's going to look like. Right. And so you have to be in this place where you're letting the old ways go as you're feeling your way, like intuiting your way blindly into these new ways of being. And you're going to get little cues and clues here and there, but ultimately right now it's about really listening to what you know is true for you and not doing the thing just because that's what you expect for yourself because of what you thought 5 years ago was the important thing, or what your higher ups or inner authority figures or something expect from you.
Especially, and then with that Jupiter in Pisces, that Jupiter in Pisces, like moving in your 12th house, again, that you're supported in these ways that you may not be able to see. So like call on that knowing when it feels, when you feel unstable.
Right.
It is destabilizing to do something for 10 years and do something different.
Yeah. And the thing that we've said so far for Leo rising and for Sag rising, not for Aries rising, because all the fire signs need to know this right now, like you have got to let yourself rest and do a little bit less, which doesn't mean stop. You want to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
But the burnout sensation is happening right now because you don't want to work in the same way. And that is why you feel burnt out. Like you'll feel energized when you find your way into these new ways of working. And a lot of these new ways of working have to do with different ways of being in relationship.
Yeah.
But the burnout is because of how you've been trained to work and how you've trained yourself to work and the expectations you've had around it. Work being whatever it is, like your job, your life, your relationships, your house or something. But the place where you're like obsessed because you're a fucking fire sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Taurus.
We're equally excited about Taurus. I'm excited about Taurus.
I mean, Taurus is pretty exciting these days.
Now it may not feel like it, but I feel it.
Yeah. What I'm feeling with Taurus is like the slowness of Taurus process, like the Taurian process is so slow. And the way that as Taurus starts to get inspired or activated or provoked, that there's this feeling that is emerging and it's starting to bubble up and now it's starting to move around, but it's like it has to become a full body expression before it's like before we know what it is. And that the way that Taurus moves is so bodily, it's so organic, it's so instinctual. Taurus can be super mental about some things for sure, but the process of its growth is like, it is animal, it's nature, it's earth, like it has to happen. It has to just happen. And I feel like this quickening, is very palpable in Taurus right now, where it's this like on all levels, internal, external, from up and down and all around, it's this feeling of like, oh yeah, this is going to be different now. Like okay, how are we going to do this different? And like, there's a lot of excitement around that.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea that Pluto's right there on this midheaven. I'm almost like, what support do you need to move a little faster? Like, and then also, but yeah, Uranus has been there for how long?
Well, since 2018, Uranus has been in Taurus
And then it'll be there for a couple more
for a
years.
couple more years. Yeah. And when you just said, what support do you need to move a little faster? I'm thinking about like Taurus being risk averse and how
Yeah,
it's like, I really want to change. I really want to try this thing, but what if I don't like it? And what if I make a change that then I lose the thing that I'm comfortable with? And it's like maybe part of the support that you need right now is to do the thing because it's like
yeah,
try it out. Try like a leap of faith is kind of the support that you need.
yeah,
Because it's like Taurus can't give itself more okay, I'm gonna slow down and try and be methodical and try and be wise and like do it the right way. It's like, no, bitch, just do it. Like,
there is gonna be no perfect time. Like, I don't know if you've seen the Cheetah Girls movie, and the dad says in the movie, you're never gonna be prepared for your dreams not to come true.
mm,
And
mm-hmm.
Pluto on the midheaven,
I
like,
love that.
my thought is like, babe, it's gonna die regardless.
Mm,
So my if it's gonna happen anyway, do the thing. I mean,
yeah,
and there's such a space for like to have Mars in the ninth house, right? Like that's so sweet. I'm thinking of like that, like support will come as you do the thing, like
yeah.
as you move inspiration and teachers and like and then then you're moving toward this 10th house. So like as people see you fail, support can come to you. Like, and also if they don't see you fail, then they will not know that you need help.
And that's the thing I feel like for Taurus right now, it's about trusting failure as part of the process, leaning into it, trusting that if it doesn't work out in the way that you're trying to do it, it's A, because something else needs to happen. It's not the right time, place, people, whatever. And
Yeah.
or B, you have to learn a lesson about it. And it's like
Yeah.
you were talking about a while ago, like if you want to learn to roller skate backwards, you have to be willing to fall.
Yeah. Especially as Uranus moves either over your ascendant, and I don't know where your sun is, like that's also speaking to this like big changes already happening.
Yeah.
So just be
Go
in
flow.
conversation, yeah, like be in conversation with your comforts enough so that they're shifting as the change is happening.
Yeah.
Because and it's eclipse season. Do what you
Coming
can.
up. Mm-hmm.
Things that like the broom is coming.
Right.
So
Like don't hold on to the past. Don't hold on to what you
no,
don't really want anymore, but it's just comfortable. Just
yeah,
try the new thing.
yeah, yeah. There's new sweetness coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone asked in the comments a little bit ago if they missed Leo, and we started with Leo, just to let you know. So you'll be able to watch this soon on the recording. But right now we're going to do Gemini. You want to start?
Okay, so this is eighth house and ninth house respectively. We're going towards nine. Ooh, okay. So very similar to those 12th house placements. My initial slow down. Specifically as you're navigating with people, as you're talking to people, as you're being in conversation with people, the ways that you move with people, but also with stories. Because like when I think about eighth house, and a lot of people also say like entanglements, I also think about the contracts that I didn't necessarily agree to.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes me think about this, like the Scorpio reading that we were talking about, like when we're thinking about perception. I'm almost like things aren't always what they appear to be. And so, especially with Mars being there, there's a lot of space to do new things, but in order to do new things, you do have to kind of assess, like, where am I coming from? How can I slow down in a way to shift how I'm working with other people? Again, and it honestly is making me think about like relationship stories.
Yeah.
Like this is how you engage with people. Be they romantic, but also like at work, but like this is how you negotiate with people, and this is how we like navigate conflict. I think there's, especially with Pluto moving there's space to negotiate and conversate differently. And we're moving towards this ninth house. So I'm like, the more that you get a little bit more, I would say sincere, but centered in how you navigate or negotiate with people, there's this bigger space to share that and to receive like an appropriate or an applicable echo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I feel like, so again, all the air signs right now and the air rising signs, you guys are getting asked to do what is not natural for the air signs, which is to stay in the feelings and to
Yeah.
stay in the entanglements and to not detach, to not disassociate, to not overly make it mental or conceptual, but to just be in it. And especially for Gemini, I feel like there has been so much emphasis on transparency and a need for Gemini to be real with themselves first and foremost, and then with others, and to not deflect, to not like whatever your X amount of strategies are to avoid the feeling, like avoid the conversation, avoid the sensation, da da da. It's like those tactics aren't serving you, and there needs to be some kind of revealing right now, and it might be revealing for yourself, it might be a revealing of a situation that needs to be seen, that needs to be acknowledged, it might be revealing within a relationship where something needs to come forward, it needs to get discussed, it needs to be held, so that we can bring it into a space where the air signs can do the thing that they're good at, which is to see the thing for what it is and understand it from a logical point of view and be creative around it and ask different kinds of questions. But in order to get there, we have to feel the feelings and recognize that they're there.
Yeah, yeah. And Mars is there. Like, there's support to do this work. It just, the support may not, the practices that are supportive may not feel like that's you, right? But like Pluto is there, so like that's the point. Like it's not gonna feel like it's
Right.
it's change.
Right. And some, I mean, I feel like some Geminis need to hear this. Not all Geminis, but some Geminis out there, like the coping strategies that you have had in relationships that have to do with avoidance they have like reached, you have gone as far as you can with them, and now you have to make changes that are probably uncomfortable to make. And it could be like you calling someone on their shit, you know, like bringing something to the table, or you bearing yourself, like revealing some situation that just like you can't ignore it anymore. Like it needs to get aired out, it needs to be seen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that there's, like you said, like these trends are temporary, and so the more that you do it, it'll metabolize into the other thing.
Yeah.
But if you the movement that you have access to moving forward is just limited.
Right. Okay, last one. We started with Leo, so we're ending with Cancer. Kadie has a Cancer moon.
Hey! Wow, this is so amazing. 7th house, babe. 7th. Yeah.
7th into 8th for Cancer is that big relationship energy.
Yeah. Um, I'm like, oh, like, I mean, maybe I'm sensing into it like, oh yeah, this could feel hard, because I think about Cancer and energy a lot as this to know the sweetness of a bond,
Mm-hmm.
and to watch Pluto move through that space is to witness the sweetness of loss,
Yeah.
the sweetness of change, and so like how we relate, how we depend, how we cohabitate, how we build families, those like root systems of a relationship, they're in big change.
Yeah.
um to value this relationship is to value what you bring to the table to the relationship. I'm also thinking about like departures and how like that is a necessary skill in relationships. Like if there's no you, then really what is the relationship?
Right.
And so, but I'm thinking about this again, this decomposition practice as like whatever is coming up for you in these relationships, it's actually a reflection of self, and how self can be a little bit more solidified, because we are making our way through this to this eighth house, which will be a little bit more of a dance with other people, and like negotiating and like working through like problem solving. And so the clearer you can be around like, this is what I bring to the table, this is what I do, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, those entanglements and those negotiations become a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really feeling that. I'm feeling I'm I'm feeling that tenderness that Cancer has for its bonds, and for those, the sweetness that you're talking about, that tenderness and that sweetness, and how nostalgia can come up in that space so easily, and like so many things can slide, and we can understand a lot, and that those skills are really necessary in order to hold complexity right now. And it's like, I feel like Cancer, I think I wrote this in the horoscope for Aquarius season for Cancer. It's like, you got to let go of grudges. Like you like the places where you're really held on emotionally to sticking points that have you being pulled back to the past, whether that's a wonderful idea and the nostalgia about something, or whether that's the grudge and the feeling of fear now because like something bad happened, or something like that. It's like those need to be held, and we can't get trapped in them, and we have to move on from them.